All right, today we are diving deep inside the mind of one of the true architects of our AI future, DeepMind co-founder Shane Legg. We're going to unpack his roadmap for artificial general intelligence, or AGI. His predictions are bold, and believe me, the timeline is probably a lot shorter than you think. Let's get right into it.
So Shane Legg does not pull any punches. This one sentence really captures the sheer scale of what we're talking about here. This isn't just about making our chatbots a little bit better. We're talking about creating a totally new form of intelligence that could one day make human genius look like, well, child's play.
That's a huge statement, right? So what does a world with superintelligence actually look like for you and me? And how in the world do we get there from where we are right now? That's the journey we're going on today.
Okay, first things first. To really understand the journey, we need a map. And Shane Legg argues that AGI isn't some single flip-a-switch moment. It's not a simple yes or no question. You have to think about it more like a spectrum.
He actually breaks this whole journey down into 3 key milestones. We start with what he calls minimal AGI, then we move on to full AGI, and eventually we could arrive at artificial superintelligence. And each of these steps is a pretty profound leap in what these systems can do.
So what's that first stop? Minimal AGI. Now, the key part of this definition isn't about being a genius. It's all about reliability. We're talking about an AI that can handle all the everyday mental stuff. Planning, learning, reasoning, but without making those bizarre, almost toddler-like mistakes that we still see them make today.
And this slide is a perfect example of why we're not at minimal AGI yet. Legg calls today's AI uneven. And it makes sense, right? On one hand, it feels totally superhuman. It knows way more trivia than any person ever could. It can translate over 150 languages. But on the other hand, it can completely fail at tasks a little kid would find simple, like really understanding perspective in a picture or just remembering a new rule you taught it for a card game.
Okay, so if that's what AGI is, the next question is pretty obvious. When is it actually coming? And maybe more importantly, why are people like Shane Legg so convinced that once it arrives, it's not just going to stop at our level?
This isn't some new hot take. Legg has been incredibly consistent about this. He's been saying since way back in 2009 that there's a 50-50 chance we hit minimal AGI by 2028. And once that happens, he expects full AGI. That's intelligence covering the entire range of human smarts, including genius-level stuff, to show up within about a decade after that.
But why is superintelligence seen as basically inevitable after that? Well, the argument for why AI won't just stop at human level, it really just comes down to pure physics. Just look at the numbers here. The human brain is an absolute evolutionary marvel, running on just 20 watts of power, less than a light bulb. But its signals only travel at about 30 meters per second. A data center? It's burning through megawatts, and its signals are zipping around at the speed of light. They're just playing in completely different leagues.
So the takeaway here is absolutely crucial. Biology has limits. Silicon doesn't, at least not in the same way. The argument is that our intelligence isn't some magical peak performance. It's just one point on a huge continuum, and technology is basically poised to blow right past it.
Okay, this is where things get really serious. I mean, if we're building something that we know will eventually dwarf our own intelligence, how on earth do we make sure it's safe? How do we align it with our values?
Shane Legg's big idea here is something he calls System 2 safety. Now, that name actually comes from the work of the psychologist Daniel Kahneman. The whole idea is to build a kind of slow, deliberate, ethical reasoning process right into the AI itself.
And this breaks the concept down perfectly. We humans have these 2 ways of thinking, right? There's System 1, which is our fast, intuitive, gut reaction, and then there's System 2, our slow, analytical, step-by-step reasoning. The goal here is to make sure an AGI doesn't just act on its first instinct, but it's forced to use a really robust, observable System 2 process for any decision that has real ethical weight.
But of course, that System 2 reasoning is just one piece of the safety puzzle. It's got to be part of a much bigger strategy. We're talking about intense pre-release testing, like can you trick it into helping you build a bioweapon? Can it be used for hacking? Then it means constant monitoring when it's out in the world and developing tools to actually understand why an AI is making the choices it's making. The goal isn't some unrealistic 100% guarantee. It's about building a robust, multi-layered defense.
So, beyond the huge questions of safety, what does AGI actually mean for our day-to-day lives, for our jobs? This is where the abstract starts to feel very, very personal. Legg has this super simple but really powerful rule of thumb for understanding the disruption that's coming. I like to call it the laptop rule. Basically, if your entire job can be done remotely, just through a screen and a keyboard, then you're operating in the exact domain that AGI will be able to perform in first.
And this creates this really fascinating divide. You have these purely cognitive fields, software engineering, finance, even law. They're right on the front lines. But then you have jobs that need you to be physically present, jobs that require dexterity, plumbing, electrical work, hands-on care. Those are protected for much longer, simply because robotics is moving at a much slower pace.
And the impact on those cognitive fields is going to be staggering. I mean, just look at software engineering. A project that might need 100 engineers today could potentially only need 20 who are mostly just supervising these advanced AI tools. This isn't just a little efficiency boost. It's a massive productivity leap that's going to totally restructure entire industries and force us to have a serious conversation about how we distribute all the immense wealth it's going to create.
So this brings us to the final and maybe the most important question of all. All of this change is coming, and it's probably coming fast. So as a society, are we even remotely prepared for it?
Shane Legg uses this analogy to describe where we are right now, and honestly, it's pretty chilling. He says, it feels like March 2020, when all the experts were shouting about an exponential curve, but most people were just going about their daily lives. It's a really stark warning that we human beings are often terrible at internalizing the reality of exponential change until it's already washing over us.
But here's a really interesting twist. Legg points out that sometimes the general public who sees an AI that can speak 200 languages actually grasps the transformative potential more intuitively than the experts who are focused on all the little things that AI can't do yet.
So this isn't science fiction. This is a change that the pioneers building it believe is just a few years down the road. We've seen the roadmap from minimal AGI all the way to superintelligence, we've looked at the timeline, and we've heard the warning. And it leaves us with one final urgent question to think about. If this new world is really coming, what is the one thing we absolutely must start changing today?